Good morning, everybody. All right, so we're looking for that 390, 3900 on the SPX to hold. Took a little while yesterday afternoon to get going, and it made a turnaround day. So now what? We got a little economic report coming out that everybody's waiting for. Things popped up a little bit. They hit their head on the ceiling. And now we'll see if we can begin to create something of a trading range that possibly something of more significance can develop from. So, spiders here. That was the turn yesterday. And they came down to the 390. Here was the pivot. We talked about open interest and put options. And that open interest in the 400 and the 4,000 level, I don't know that they went away. Maybe they're the same. Maybe they've increased. But now they hit their head on there and came right back down. So we've got a relatively tight little range now for it to work back and forth from to see what happens. And it's actually a good thing in that, look, we don't really, I don't like V bottoms because they're less predictable. Not that it can't rally back up, but a year or two ago, that was more of the norm, but that was in a bull market. And so now we've got all these economic fears and inflation and Sleepy Joe at the controls and all kinds of uncertainties out there. And even if it pops its head above 400, you've got the 200, the 50 MA right there, the green line, and so we'll see how it deals with today. The ideal scenario for something sustainable, and I don't think there's going to be anything really all that sustainable, and we find things showing relative strength. Probably, as I think about it, probably what has shown relative weakness and is way extended on the downside, something like that STX might provide better opportunities. I mean, there are things that are already down to the June, July low already. Microsoft is one of them. So with all this discussion, are the market's going to get down there? Well, I mean, there's plenty of stocks already down there. So whether the S&P gets down there or not, okay, we can talk about it, but it's not like there aren't stocks already getting pounded down there. So one bar doesn't make a turn, and it's the beginning. It's a change, red, all the way down. It's above the high. It's gapping, and you can see where it is, right? It's at 399 and a half or so. So it's gapping right up here. It's going to gap right into this resistance. And now we'll see what it does. Does it hang there and go sideways? Bullish price action? Does it plummet right back down at the open? That's what we'll be looking for. When something comes down, as this did, right? As this did, meaning, I'm getting my drawing thing out here. When a monster bar like that, and basically things just went vertical right down like that, like it did. Typically, it ends, something ends and then you get a retest, and that would be, something to be looking for. It doesn't have to be something long like this one here. I think it had three retests down here, where it came down vertically like that. And this was, more violent and a deeper move than what this one was, but I'm still not putting out of the realm of possibilities that this sets up a measured move does get all the way down to the bottom of the range, but that's going to take a little while. Right now you've got this gap up, and can it get above 400, and where does it go from there? So far it's hanging up here pre-market. All right, so let's take a look at the futures as we do. And you can see there's yesterday that formed a bottoming tail bar, came right down there, 3,900, and they got a little over anxious, I guess. Sometimes it pokes through it, but it didn't quite get down through it. So 39.03 and a half close enough for government work, probably a little better than government work. Getting down there, we talked about this almost 10% correction from the high to the low, and it just about touched it, give or take, right? So that was the area we had hoped it would touch. Coming down there, it did. It popped up, and it's moving up into resistance up near 4,000. You can see the congestion right there by looking to the left, and that's exactly where it stalled. But so it's not collapsing. Came down a little hard right there, but it popped right back up again. So far, so good, acting well. Now it's retesting a new pivot. So we have reference points when we look over to the left like this. We look over to the left at our whole numbers. And then we have brand new reference points that are created on the day. Right? So when we look at a level down here, right? So what I'm suggesting and teaching, Dan and I are always teaching you in these pre-market things besides creating a bias for a day. Once we have an old reference point, right, from the past, it provides us a bias as to a potential new reference point. And then we have time frames that we look at. Hey, good morning, Alex. Of choice, whether you use a 5-minute or a 15-minute or whatever, right? And you start to look for new reference points, meaning pivots down at that level. And so this new information being created is what is an alignment with your bias that just says, hey, you know what? As we're actually down here, it starts pivoting down there, in the middle of the day. And it's like, okay, buyers are stepping up in that area where I thought because of what was over here and that open interest, yada, yada, yada. And now here's you get, a move off of the low and a buy setup and all of that. So now it's up at 4,000, getting up a little up above it there. 50 MA is up here. So it's the beginning of a turn. Right? Now it's just, a bottoming tail bar. We'll see how far it gets today. That'll be what's important here. Right? Does it get here and collapse back down? Do we get a retest, going into next week, which would be great. And I think opens up the idea of a bigger move, but in any event, this might be able to move up toward this area up here. We'll just see. Right now, we just follow it bar by bar and the pivots and so on. So with that in mind, we'll look at SPX. And yesterday, they cleared all the data. Naughty ones. 3220. Let's see. $39.20 down here. Well, there'll be buyers down there, Jacob, for sure. If it was to go down there. I'm just looking. You already know what the juice is, but I don't. 39, 50, 20, 45. Where the hell is that number? Sometimes when I sort these things, they don't line things up the way it was. All right, 39.20, 65 by 80. Okay. And that might evaporate quickly, and what's up above? I'm looking. Wow. Nothing. Right. It's 4,000. 18, 420. 60, 65, 70, 70, 75. What's that high there? 72. Okay, so 72, 70 or 75. If it keeps pushing up, consider 40.75. So it's above this high right there. You can see it's 40.72. Right, so it's above here. I like them a little further away, but look, there's a void up above, but I don't think it's going to get much further than that today. So there you have it. 39.20 20, but that might evaporate relatively quickly unless this turns lower. Qs, same story. We've been seeing the same thing. And look down at the pivot, just tickled its little tail a little bit below there. Kind of what I thought the S&Ps might do, but this came down weaker, but just came down below the low. And you got to be watching this, right? As it comes down there, and now you're watching, for the turn, for those pivots to start down there. And so as it reaches the destination that you believe it's going to make it to, you start looking for clues. And you look pivots. This one was a great one. When it broke the low and it popped right back up again. There's your little plain old vanilla pullback pattern right there. Well, I think Alex, I think the further it gets today, profit taking before the weekend would be the flavor to be looking for. Sure, if it can get up there. Don't get enamored by this turn and thinking like, hoo. I mean, I'm not thinking that way. Like, oh, we're back off to the races again. I mean, this thing came down vertically. This came down hard. We just got things at an area of support. It's came down enough. You got the internals. This is overcooked down here. All right. We were looking for this thing to turn lower. It's reached its destination. Some kind of stabilization or bounce should happen. Day before yesterday, I said, look, we need to see this thing push down into these envelopes. It's there. So we have the alignment of sentiment and breadth, historically, which leads to some kind of a bounce. And we'll see how far these pop. Now, the fact that it's as low as this is not positive. It just means historically it's extreme enough where markets typically bounce. And that's what we have right here. Because in a bull market, it doesn't get down here. Rarely. So just keep that in mind. And the Russell, similarly came down, looked to the left. There it is, beginning to stabilize. And so now we'll get some backing and filling here. And I'm sure that we'll have some long setups, maybe, we'll see what happens at the end of the day. But, going into the weekend, when this turn happens, it should be able to do something, I would think, into next week. And if it does it in a grinding kind of a way, one of the things that I mentioned is that maybe it holds on to this at least turn or somewhat of a move up until the options expiration in the middle of the month. But we'll see what plays out. I'm a little surprised the muted reaction here in Bitcoin. It's doing nothing here, just going sideways, and it could be the fly in the ointment of this little short-term potential for a bounce. If this should get going in some way since it's at support. So if, just keep an eye on it. It did pop up, but it's not doing too much. I mean, in reality, the other markets aren't doing too much either. And, our interest rates that we look at are still in a super bullish uptrend in the 5-year, having moved up, coming down a little today. So again, short term, they're doing the right things for a little bounce to occur here. We'll see how far they do, right? Everybody talks about this at 30-year, but the 10-year was on fire yesterday after the gap up, got up here, and so far just an inside day, but pulling back. And unless they look at transports, well, I looked at Bitcoin, I looked at, they're going to bounce a bit, and silver is, you got the dollar on fire. Maybe it bounces a little bit. That maybe the dollar is going to take a little bit of a breather. Yeah, it's down a little bit. It's kind of a breakout failure there. So there you go. We got it. We got the makings of a turn, and we'll see how far it gets. Maybe those things, as I said, that have gotten pounded down already are the ones that are going to maybe outperform. And probably, look, what should be a no-brainer should be Apple, right? Every institution owns it. They're on the edge of their seats, worrying that this thing's going to crack. So, maybe for a few days, maybe it can put in a few points. What are your thoughts on oil strength today? Well, I'm pressing buttons where I shouldn't, because that should still be there. Not much. I mean, I expected it to bounce down here, and it did, and it came all the way back down to the lows, and now it's building a support area. So, look, similarly, when you look at multiple time frames, and where this is, it actually broke down, and it's just been whipping back and forth. So oil's kind of in a weird situation, but this is two pivots. It's retesting that area. We'll see if it holds. Now, with all this, hey, we've got inverted yield curves. We got the government, throwing gas on the fire with more money getting thrown out there for this inflation. And, the recession, whether it's here or not, look, all of a sudden they change their opinions about 2/4 of GDP. You got that, right? So no, maybe not. But anyway, if recession is coming, you would expect that oil would break down. So I mean, we'll keep an eye on this, but I don't expect anything's going to happen here this week. But you see that in the way it's going sideways here, indecision tails on the weekly chart. If we're going to have a recession, oil is a commodity that's used for a lot of things. And if demand is going to slow, well, this should break down, but we'll see what happens. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. Happy Zero DTE Day. Yeah, thanks, Neil. Yeah, we did, because we had so many Climos yesterday, when I went through earnings, even though there's not many of them post-market, there was a lot of beautiful setups, because this is, the ideal pattern that well, there's a couple ideal patterns, but if you're going to sell put spreads, our approach is it has to be a bullish pattern. So it could just be monster support, daily, weekly, breakout. It could be a climactic buy setup to support daily, weekly. And that's what we were finding yesterday all over the place in these earnings. So we did Lulu. That's gapping up. You can let it expire worthless, or I'm going to bid a penny to be done with it, because that's what I do. Abgo, perfect. Even if this thing gapped down another $20, then I'd be looking to add to the position. It's a Climo support, and that one's working great. And then we did Papa Delta. I was shocked at how much the premiums were. And we did the 20s, $4 away. We shorted the 20s and the 17.5s. I did both of them myself. All right, so all three of those are good. HCP, I went through them all. I would have done this one too. I think it had ludicrous spreads, but I was trying to do the 25s. That's a no-brainer setup, selling off into earnings. SMAR, this one, the pattern I wasn't crazy about as much. I forget if I looked at the juice or not. This one I did not look. That's not a pattern that would have interested me. That one would have been more of a call spread up here, 36 or higher. I would have sold a call spread on that. NX, I guarantee you I looked at the 20s, because that's what I do. And I didn't do them, so I don't know the reason. There was either no juice, or too spready. This one I would have done. There wasn't a good strike. Climactic, opening flat. Let's put that in a window over here. Sportsman's Warehouse. And then, the cousin DKS. That's a big old bull flag right there in DKS. That's strong. Joan, there was no pattern, so I'm sure I had no interest in that. There's no gap here. VIAF. This was IPO yesterday. Look at that. Now it's gapping up. We'll come back in 30 minutes. This low volume, no pattern, you're gone. OXM. Okay, here we go. Gapping down $5. So this is a total gap and snap setup. OXM right there. Put it in a 5-minute window and we just watch it for the first 30 minutes. But the setup is fantastic. I prefer, I wouldn't mind a gapping even at $95 above the 200. So that looks fantastic as a new trade. Tilius. Gapping down here a little under 7. It could be a gap and snap 30-minute high. And next we looked at Nlock. Chunky bottoming pattern. UMA we looked at. SMAR. No pattern. HCP. All right, so that's a very bullish gap over this ugly red bar, but there's no price void is the problem on that one. All right, so back to our positions. We went from very bearish on the calls on the call spreads this week on the weekly options trader, but we were like 90% bearish, and then we took all our profits on those, every one of them. And now we're 100% bullish. We have 4 or 5 open ones. Marriott's one we're actually short a half lot. Stop over. What's today? Friday. Stop over Wednesday's high. We were taking our profits on a lot of other swings. Zoom. We shorted this yesterday. It was a bearish pattern, but the thing that it's similar, Greg, when we talk about, hey, putting on put spreads at the top of the market with internals. If we're expecting a turn, this thing's already beat up. So we have a short on that stuff Wednesday's high. Ulta. Now, Ulta, I think I was just looking at as a competitor or whatever. It's a mess, but it's still bullish daily, weekly, monthly. I would consider putting on a put spread for next week under this bar's low. Yeah, that's the general rule, Paul. Yeah, yes, I would. Here's another little IPO. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this came out last Friday. This is actually up too much now, 570, but you're definitely getting some action there. SMG, and this is a naked put idea. Another Climo, the 55s. SNN, I just saw this going by the ticker. I like the volume, wide range reversal, still in a downtrend, but nice 15-minute chart. This could be the start of a little bottoming process. Let me see if there's any juice. It's just friggin' ridiculous. $20 puts are 0 by 480. That's ridiculous. Starbucks, they named a new CEO starting next year. it's making the turn here at the 50 MA, so that's a put spread idea also for next week. Uh, Apple here is moving. I was looking all over the place for put spreads into the close yesterday, and I think we went through a bunch of the things, and I said they were all fine. There was just no juice for 1 DTE. Google at the bottom of the range. This one is a put spread idea, but also for Tuesday, because Monday's a holiday. If this gets going over this red bar, be a directional and a put spread. On Netflix, that's above the 50. Retest and reversal on support. That actually could be a home run entry on the weekly too. So let's keep an eye on Netflix. Tesla, it's a usual suspect for 0 DTE. So it's a bottoming tail at the 50. So that, the problem is we're up too much now, so we need a pullback. But there's a lot of candidates here. Yeah, Microsoft, as Greg said, deep retracement. So Microsoft and Google are weaker than the many others, but let's see how they close. This could be the perfect time for put spreads for next week. I see our cream CRM. We did a put spread. That's another Climo. These were all over the place yesterday. It's like it was credit spread heaven into the close. And we did a bunch of them. This had earnings, cool, beautiful. I think we did it recently, reading WRBs and MT Live. That is a beautiful gap negated range expansion bar on volume on major support. I just wish I got a better entry on that. That would have been a great 15-minute high yesterday, or 30-minute high, even on the pullback. So that's a beautiful short-term. Like cream, another up alarm. Let's see, the midpoint now it's 33. Wow, we got a nice open game. I'm gonna bid a quarter, see if I can get out. I just get filled at a quarter. No, I got out of my Lulu at a penny. All right, so Lulu, I'm out 1 penny. Nice trade there. I was bidding, yeah, Abgo. I'm also bidding a penny. But yeah, the problem with Abgo is they're not posting. They're not posting penny bids. So that's why you only have 2 choices on Abgo. You have 2 choices. Buy a higher strike of 465 for a nickel, or do nothing and pick a stop and hope that full profit. There's no right answer. I did get filled at a penny on Abgo. McGraw, I just learned something. I just learned something. Even if they don't post the penny, I got filled. All right, that's a fantastic lesson right there. I thought if they didn't post me, then I'm not going to get filled, but I just did at a penny. So I'm out of both. Abgo. All right, awesome. Now on another account too. Let me see if. All right, I got filled penny the other account too. third account. Here we go. Great. Awesome. Awesome trade there. Um, PB. All right, sell off for a little bit. Stupid Marriott. Bitcoin rallying. VIX came in hard at 830 with the the employment data. Okay, the SPWH, way too messy. OXM.